Buongiorno, buongiorno a tutti. Um, I live right across the street from a church right now, and so there might be some bells in the background, but, you know, we'll just ring in the moment and you can enjoy the music. I found something amazing. It's, you know, the people who are pro Proposition 8 have been talking about the 6 consequences if Proposition 8 fails. And a BYU law professor wrote a response to it. So obviously this is a law professor, number one. Number two, he's a BYU professor, which means that he is obviously not gay and married and active in the church. So I like this a lot because it responds to all these different things that the pro Proposition 8 people have been using. And I don't want to call it propaganda, but it's just, a lot of it is fear tactics, and it's sort of evident just from what it says that it's a fear tactic, but he lays it out. So I'm just going to read this for you. It's online, and I'll post the link on my my YouTube page. A commentary on the document 6 Consequences if Proposition 8 Fails by Morris A. Thurston. An anonymously authored document titled 6 Consequences the Coalition has identified if Proposition 8 fails is currently being distributed by a coalition of churches and other organizations in support of Proposition 8, an initiative on the November 2008 California ballot. The intent of Proposition 8 is to overturn the California Supreme Court's ruling allowing homosexuals to marry. Most of the arguments contained in 6 Consequences are either untrue or misleading. The following commentary addresses those arguments and explains how they are based on misinterpretations of law and fact. My intent is to be of service in helping our church avoid charges of using falsehoods to gain a political victory. Relying on deceptive arguments is not only contrary to gospel principles, but ultimately works against the very mission of the church. The original document text is in Times Roman, and my responses are in this other file. Okay. 6 consequences the coalition in support of Proposition 8 has identified if Proposition 8 fails. Number 1, children in public schools will have to be taught that same-sex marriage is just as good as traditional marriage. The California Education Code already requires that health education classes instruct children about marriage. Therefore, unless Proposition 8 passes, children will be taught that marriage is between 2 adults regardless of gender. There will be serious clashes between the secular school system and the right of parents to teach their children their own values and beliefs. Response: this is untrue. California Education Code 51-890 provides that pupils will receive instruction to aid them in making decisions in matters of personal, family, and community health. The focus is on health. The statute provides for community participation, including lectures by practicing professional health and safety personnel from the community. Things that are to be taught include, for example, drug use and misuse, nutrition, exercise, disease and disorders, environmental health and safety, as well as family health and child development. This is in quotes, family health and child development, including the legal and financial aspects and responsibilities of marriage and parenthood, end quote. Another section of the Education Code, 51933, deals with comprehensive sexual health education and HIV/AIDS prevention. It provides that instruction shall be age-appropriate and medically accurate, shall teach, quote, respect for marriage and committed relationships, end quote, and shall encourage a pupil to communicate with his or her parents about human sexuality. Therefore, no provision of the Education Code requires any teacher to teach that same-sex marriage is, quote, just as good as traditional marriage. Teachers are to teach respect for marriage and committed relationships, and Proposition 8 will not change this law. Number 2, churches may be sued over their tax-exempt status if they refuse to allow same-sex marriage ceremonies in their religious buildings open to the public. Ask whether your pastor, priest, minister, bishop, or rabbi is ready to perform such marriages in your chapels and sanctuaries. Response: this false consequence is based on the misinterpretation of a case in New Jersey involving an association affiliated with the Methodist Church. In considering that case, it is important to remember that New Jersey does not permit gay marriage, so that case has nothing to do with Proposition 8. What was the New Jersey case about? The Ocean Grove Camp Meeting Association, OGCMA, a Methodist organization, had taken advantage of a New Jersey law granting a state property tax exemption for a pavilion in the seaside town of Ocean Grove that was dedicated for public use. Note that this case did not involve income tax exemptions, and note that the purpose for giving the exemption in the first place was to reward organizations for opening their buildings and facilities for public use. The property in question was a boardwalk pavilion open to the public. Quote, bands play there, children skateboard through it, tourists enjoy the shade. It's even been used for debates and Civil War reenactments, end quote. It was also available to be reserved for marriage ceremonies by people of any faith. Nevertheless, OGCMA wanted to prohibit a gay commitment ceremony, not a marriage ceremony, from being held in the pavilion. The New Jersey Real Estate Commission ruled that if OGCMA intended to claim a property tax exemption for a building open to the public, they could not discriminate. Seen in this light, it was a sensible ruling. Implicit in the ruling is that the group could discriminate if they ceased to claim a property tax exemption for the public facility. It is important to note that this ruling pertained only to the pavilion, which constituted a mere 1% of the property OGCMA owned. The total amount of additional tax assessed was $200. The OGCMA continues to receive a property tax exemption for the remaining 99% of its property. This case has nothing to do with any Mormon, Catholic, or any other church's chapel or sanctuary that is used for religious purposes. It has nothing to do with any church's income tax exemption. To my knowledge, the Mormon Church has never sought to take advantage of a property tax exemption similar to the New Jersey exemption, and likely never would. The California Supreme Court ruling on gay marriage cannot have any federal tax consequences, and the court so noted explicitly in its decision. The Supreme Court also noted that its ruling would not require any priest, rabbi, or minister to perform gay marriages, which should be self-evident because of the First Amendment's guarantee of freedom of religion. Number 3. Religious adoption agencies will be challenged by government agencies to give up their long-held right to place children only in homes with both a mother and a father. Catholic Charities in Boston have already closed its doors in Massachusetts because courts legalize same-sex marriage there. Response: another misinterpretation. To begin with, it should be noted that Catholic Charities in Boston was not forced to close its doors. Indeed, it is still very active. See its website at www.ccab.org. Rather, Catholic Charities voluntarily ceased providing adoption service in Massachusetts. According to the Boston Globe, Catholic Charities elected to close its doors in protest over the legalization of gay marriage in Massachusetts, and because it was reluctant to undertake a lawsuit that might be lost. LDS Family Services still operates in Massachusetts as it does in California. There are several differences between LDSFS and Catholic Charities. LDSFS does not take federal or state funds. Catholic Charities does. LDSFS facilitates only voluntary adoptions and permits the birth mother to approve the adoptive parents. Catholic Charities handled non-voluntary adoptions where the state seizes the children and normally did not accommodate birth mother approval. Catholic Charities had contracts with the state and was, in effect, acting as an agent of the state. LDSFS does not. To date, LDS Family Services has never been forced to place any children with a gay couple, and it has never been sued for not doing so. If this situation ever faces a legal challenge in California, it will not matter whether Proposition 8 passes because California already has it on its books, and has for several years, a law granting domestic partners, homosexual and heterosexual, the same civil rights as married couples. This is a point that many people seem not to understand. Here is the language of just one California statute. Quote, registered domestic partners shall have the same rights, protections, and benefits, and shall be subject to the same responsibilities, obligations, and duties under law, whether they derive from statutes, administrative regulations, court rules, government policies, common law, or any other provisions or sources of law, as are granted to and imposed upon spouses, end quote. Therefore, the passage or failure of Proposition 8 will have no effect on the placement of orphans with gay couples in California.